When someone quietly disappears from their camera roll as they get older, it's often not about vanity at all. It's about silent emotional battles most people never see. And this is the part most people miss. A missing selfie can be a loud signal that something much deeper is going on beneath the surface. Research suggests self-esteem often climbs through early adulthood, then tends to reach its highest point around midlife before it levels off or shifts. As people move through major life transitions, their sense of identity is constantly challenged. Careers change, bodies age, family roles shift, and losses accumulate. Over time, even seemingly small habits like snapping selfies can fade because they no longer feel aligned with how a person sees themselves. When someone who used to love taking selfies suddenly stops as they get older, it's often less about not caring anymore and more about private feelings they don't feel safe sharing publicly. They may feel unsettled by their aging face, anxious about mortality, or disconnected from the person they see in photos. On the surface, it might look superficial, but for many people, those simple snapshots hold a lot of emotional weight. And here's where it gets controversial. Dismissing selfies as shallow might mean dismissing someone's quiet cry for understanding. They feel invisible. One of the most painful experiences of aging is the sense of becoming invisible, not just online, but in relationships, workplaces, and everyday interactions. People may notice that attention shifts away from them toward younger faces, and this can intensify existing struggles with self-worth, especially for women who've been socially rewarded for youth and appearance. Someone who feels unseen might stop taking selfies because it feels pointless to show up in a world that seems to overlook them anyway. They often keep these feelings to themselves because they don't want to make a fuss or be perceived as needy. Yet inside, they're wrestling with the sense that everyone else is seen, valued, and celebrated while they quietly fade into the background. They've lost confidence in their appearance. As people age, their relationship with their body and appearance can become more complicated. Wrinkles, weight changes, gray hair, and other visible signs of aging are constantly contrasted with filtered, youthful images online, which can make even confident people feel suddenly self-conscious. Women in particular often feel squeezed between rigid beauty standards and the pressure to age gracefully, which can feel like an impossible balancing act. If someone is already feeling sensitive about how they look, the idea of turning on the front-facing camera and documenting every perceived flaw can be overwhelming. So, they quietly step back from selfies, not because they don't care, but because each photo feels like a test they're afraid they'll fail. They've stopped feeling connected online. Posting selfies usually feels good when there's a sense of connection on the other side. Friends who respond, a community that engages, or loved ones who show they care. As people grow older, however, they may find it harder to feel at home in fast-changing online spaces or to keep up with friends' busy lives. If their social circle has drifted apart or their friends are less active online, sharing photos can start to feel like shouting into an empty room. Without that sense of someone is there and someone cares, they may decide there's no reason to keep snapping and posting pictures of themselves. They don't like what they see in a mirror. When a person is already struggling with low self-esteem, every glance in the mirror can feel like a confrontation. Add a camera lens on top of that, and the pressure multiplies. Angles, lighting, filters, and comparison to others can easily turn into a spiral of self-criticism. If they dislike their reflection, taking selfies will naturally fall to the bottom of their priority list. In that emotional state, basic tasks like getting ready for the day may already feel heavy, so posing for a cheerful photo can feel fake or exhausting. And if they're also feeling lonely, that combination of isolation and low self-worth can intensify stress, anxiety, or depression, making just take a selfie feel anything but simple. They've lost their sense of purpose. When someone feels like they no longer have a clear purpose, maybe they've retired, their kids have moved out, or a long-term role has ended, even small actions can feel meaningless. If life feels directionless or empty, sharing snapshots of daily moments can raise uncomfortable questions. Why am I posting this? What's the point? In some cases, People once used selfies and social feeds to feel validated and reassured. As they age and their priorities shift, they may step away from these habits to protect their self-esteem and begin searching for a deeper, more authentic sense of meaning. Ironically, their silence online can sometimes signal growth, not failure, but from the outside, it can look like they simply gave up. They're stuck in fight or flight mode. When a person is living in a constant state of stress or anxiety, their nervous system stays on high alert. In that state, the brain is focused on survival-level tasks, getting through the day, dealing with responsibilities, and managing overwhelming emotions. Things that once felt simple, showering, tidying up, answering messages, can suddenly feel like climbing a mountain. In that kind of mental and emotional overload, stopping to pose, smile, and take a selfie often feels laughably out of reach. It's not that they don't care how they look or how they show up. It's that their internal world is so chaotic that adding one more optional activity feels impossible. They're grieving. Grief doesn't only follow death. It can also appear when someone is mourning a lost relationship, a career, their health, or even younger versions of themselves. Grief often shows up in subtle avoidance behaviors. Not going certain places, not talking about certain topics, and not looking at or taking certain kinds of photos. For someone who is grieving, selfies can be painful reminders of what used to be, the person they were, the people who are gone, or the life they thought they'd have. They may unconsciously avoid cameras to protect themselves from being flooded with memories or emotions. From the outside, it may just look like they don't post much anymore, but inside it's a coping strategy, even if it isn't always a healthy one. They fear being judged. Aging comes with a whole set of stereotypes and harsh expectations, especially for women. Too old, trying too hard, not trying hard enough, letting themselves go, or craving attention. These narratives can make people feel like they can't win no matter what they do. If someone is already worried about how others will view their wrinkles, weight, lifestyle, or choices, sharing a selfie can feel like stepping into a courtroom of silent critics. Even if they still like how they look in private, the fear of being mocked, pitted, or gossiped about can be enough to make them stop posting their face online. Here's the controversial angle. A culture that mocks older people for posting selfies and then also shames them for disappearing is setting them up to lose either way. They become deeply private. Some people simply grow more guarded as they age. After years of heartbreaks, disappointments, betrayals, or online drama, they may decide that protecting their inner world matters more than public visibility. Privacy becomes a shield that helps them feel safer and more in control. In that mindset, taking and posting selfies can feel like opening a door they've worked hard to close. They might share almost nothing about their personal lives, not their relationships, not their wins, not their struggles. It's not that they never take a photo of themselves. It's that they no longer feel comfortable turning their face into content for others to consume. They're lonely. Loneliness can be especially cruel because it often persists even when someone is physically surrounded by people. A person can have coworkers, family, and hundreds of online connections and still feel utterly alone inside. Over time, that isolation can create a painful mix of shame, self-doubt, and emotional exhaustion. When someone feels deeply lonely, posting selfies or personal updates can feel pointless or even humiliating, like sending out a signal and getting no real response. They may think, why would anyone care what I look like or what I'm doing? So they retreat, post less, and watch silently from the sidelines, which can make the loneliness even worse. They feel emotionally fragile. For someone who already feels emotionally on edge, even a simple notification or comment can feel like too much. When a person is emotionally fragile, they often cope by withdrawing, skipping social events, not answering messages, and avoiding situations that might stir up more feelings than they can handle. In that state, selfies and social media become one more emotional risk. They might worry that a single, thoughtless comment about their appearance or age could send them spiraling. Rather than open themselves up to that possibility, they shut the door entirely. They stop sharing, stop posting, stop showing their face, and try to keep their inner world from overflowing. So what does all this really mean? Sometimes, A missing selfie is just a sign that someone's priorities have changed. They're busy,